Hello. I recording only when there is something I have to say that the heaven want me to tell you. I don't. Uh, Maybe I did it in in the beginning of this podcast that I talk about me because I wanted you to have a foundation to know where I come from. But more and more is it controlling of spirits, spirit world, more than it is me. And so I start to recording now. Um, I think it is February 2023. And I had a visit in the night. I was telling before I go to fall to sleep that I didn't want anyone to come and disturb my night. And it's working fine, but not this night, because my grandmother came and talked to me, and I can understand that because last time she was here and talked to me, it was when my mother come and talk first, and then my grandmother suddenly I think it's in English you say interfere, disturbing my mother to talk to me, because I have talked about it before that my grandmother come and she asked what it was in the room. It looked like hospital place, but it was up in heaven. And she looked in a room, my grandmother, and she saw a computer. But she died in 1966, so there was no computers in Sweden for private people. And so she didn't know what it was. But that she come through into my mother's path. It's a silver cord that people have from heaven and to earth if we don't cut it off like most people cut it off, and the silver cord be broken and we have no connection with heaven. And but my grandmother, she have a silver cord to me, but she went in to my mother's cord, but she didn't cut it off. But she come in a path that she should not coming in, and my mother she died 1990, so it's far away from them in time, and so she had not coming through my grandmother. I don't think she had coming through before, but this night she come, and she wanted to talk. I think she was talking about my daughter, and she wanted me to tell my daughter how she died, how my grandmother died, because it was something special with that. And and my daughter, she don't believe in this, that we have contact with heaven more than what she think is Jesus is the only one that can come and talk to us. So she didn't believe in, but I had a message for my daughter, so I have to tell her what was going on in the night. So I asked my daughter if her doctor, she have no ovule, my daughter, she can't have any babies. So she is going to a doctor because she have to take the female hormones because she don't have that because of her ovule doesn't work as it should. And so I asked my daughter today because suddenly my daughter come and wanted to chat, and I'd be surprised. But I understood that my grandmother had make her take contact, my daughter to take contact, because they can do this to us, that we have maybe not thinking about something, and then they push it on us to remember. Like for me, is it many times, sometimes it have happened that I hear a song, a music, that I have not heard in 40, 50 years. In the spirit, I hear a song. And suddenly, after some minutes, that song is coming from a source like television or radio or like these things, or on Facebook. And suddenly it's coming, but I have received it before it started to come. And of course I'd be very surprised when I hear inside me a song that I have not heard for 40, 50 years. And then suddenly after that is coming this music from a source that exists here on earth. And so it can have been two messages, but I knew that I have to talk to my daughter. So suddenly she sent me on the chat. She sent me a picture that I have forgotten, but she had some picture because it's holiday school winter holiday here in around my area, and she make food for children, and the church closed down because many people want to go on holiday, go and skiing and do fun things with the family, and some have to stay home because the children is at home. So she had nothing to do, and of course she traveled to her father. She never traveled to me. She have not that thinking to maybe sleep over here in my home for some days, because I have a place for her to sleep. I don't have the big house as her father. He have 3-floor high house, but it's enough if you have somewhere to sleep. But she never come and visit me in that way. She visit me about 3-4 times a year, and then she is here about 2-3 hours each time, so it's not much. And so she was at her father's house, and she scanned pictures, and she was sending me 3 pictures from when we were to Mallorca in Spain, the island there in Mallorca. And I have almost forgot it, that we were there. But she and I was there, and she sent me a picture. It was 1992, and she was sending me a picture with a dolphin park in Mallorca. And she thought it was fun with our clothes. But I said to her that was 80s, those clothes we wear in the 80s. And she said, no, it was in the 90s we were there. But I say it didn't stop when 80s was gone. It was 92, so we were still in 80s clothes. And so she sent me that. And then I say to her, have you take your blood pressure? Do the doctor check up your blood pressure? Because that was what my grandmother wanted me to ask my daughter. And so I think my grandmother was worried about my daughter, because my daughter is she eats vegan food, and I think she puke and these things, bulimia things also. So she have no protection with under her skin. She have no fat. To if she be sick, she don't have a defend. And she have taken 3 COVID vaccine, and she is always sick. And she blame it that they have so much people around her. She blame on that. But my grandmother come this night, and she remind me to ask my daughter about her blood pressure. And I have very high blood pressure, and so it was not about that, because my daughter's father, he have too low blood pressure. So one time he faint on his job and was sent home, and he go to the doctor next day, and they find out that he had too low blood pressure. And I'm thinking about, maybe it was my grandmother was telling me about that if she have got her father's blood pressure, so she is very low. And I think I have asked her about the blood pressure, that she have the same as her father. Then it's dangerous what she is doing. And I told my daughter that my grandmother come through in the night, and she was asking me to ask you if they take your measure the blood pressure when you are to the doctor, and my grandmother make me remember that she was out on bicycle. She was not vegan. It was not what they did in that time, and she fall down on her bicycle on the road and got a stroke. And my mother said that to me, that when she was away, she was working in the city, and my grandmother always said to her, "Can you buy some powder?" It was powder in that time, in the 30s, 40s. It was no pills. I had that. I bought it in United States because I thought it was so great that it melted very fast inside me. So that was powder in a paper at the pharmacy. And so there was maybe still are powder for the pain, headache, for the headache. So so she said that to my mother to buy her home. So I think she had high blood pressure that make her get headache. And so my high blood pressure doesn't give me a headache. But I take pills for medicine for the blood pressure. So I never got it. I had before. I remember now when I'm talking that I have migraine at least twice in a week. Very, very bad migraine. But it did go away. And I think it was when I started to get medicine for high blood pressure, it was going away, the headache and migraine. And laying in a cold room. When I was a child, I never get help for my blood pressure, for my headache. So I did to myself that I walk out on the balcony, the terrace outside, even if it was snow. I took a chair and then I sit with a blanket and then I fall to sleep. And when I wake up, the migraine was gone. No one helped me, but I found out by myself how to do it. And my evil older brother, sometimes he closed me out in the winter time. So I did, when I start to freeze, I couldn't come in. And so that's what my grandmother said to me. And she maybe have been here the whole time, but I have not felt her, that she have been here. And I am asking in my mind, in a telepathy way, I ask her if she is here. And there is someone, is it, that is on it he or she's way to touch me. So maybe she never go back to heaven. Instead, she is here now and will be with me. And maybe it's a good thing. But I have met her, my grandmother. She is the only one that I have met of these old people, because my parents was old, so they were dead. And my grandmother was the only one that was still alive when I be born. And but she got this stroke 1959. So I was too young to have seen her well. For me, was she always sick? I don't remember earlier in life to have met her. I only remember her when it was spring. My mother and her sister and husband to her sister and the children. We were many people. We were this family that should be that I never got. But I had it when my mother lived. And we were to my grandmother on this, it was like elder care for those that was disabled. Because of the stroke, my grandmother, she lost her ability to move her right side. So I thought it was very strong of her to let the left side take over. So she never walked. She couldn't learn to walk, but she could do everything with her left arm. And I think it was not her fault. I could hear her talk, but her talk was not clear. She have a little aphasia, but it works to could hear her if we pay attention to it very much. And I think it was more like my mother's way to do it, because my grandmother was laying in the bed, and my mother told me to go to my grandmother's head, just where her head was, and standing on the side of the bed, and then she took her hand down in my pants. I have a dress on. I was a little girl. And then she placed her hand inside my pants and clapped me for a long time. And my brother, he thought it was so very fun to see that she did that on me, and it was so very embarrassing to standing like that and have a hand on my butt. And I have thought about it, why she did that, and why my mother wanted me to go up and standing almost half nude because she took down my pants. And if it had something with my mother's childhood to do, that my mother experienced her own childhood by telling me to go up to my grandmother's, up to her shoulder like that, and she could touch me. And just before my grandmother died, when I was 12 years old, I say no to it. And it was really much discussion, because I have started to say this is wrong. Why should I up standing half nude in a room, and then all kind of people were there. I remember that the nurse came in sometimes, and they be embarrassed because I was standing like that, and they smile a little like, don't be frightened. But I didn't like it, and today I don't like when now I learn again something that I have never think about, because I have not been into doing something with my butt, but with my ass, with my boyfriends and husband like that. I have not liked them to do something with my ass. But that I understand today now where it's coming from. It's I experience again my grandmother when they tried to do something like that. So now I understand the complication with this. More and more through the years have it been popular to do things in the wrong hole. And I have never could accept it. So now I know so much is coming from the childhood. If you start to think about it, things that you don't like, and something that you like that is a little odd, that is coming from their childhood. And by remember the childhood, what they did to you that was wrong, that make you could deal with this what the devil had placed inside you, in your brain, that you fear, or you are discussion about. You know it's very wrong, but you don't know where it's coming from. But most of them are coming from the childhood. And now I got this. Why have I never liked that a man touched my butt? It's coming from my grandmother when she did that. I can, when I know where it's coming from, I can accept it. That's what's wrong to do that on me. And it changed. It make me think in that way. That that have something with what was wrong they did, it's followed me my whole life through. So it is very important to remember. Many churches I was in United States, it's was posters. It was the pastor was talking about to not go back and remember things in your childhood. But that was the devil's talking about, to not go back and pick up memories. Because if you, as a psychology PhD educated, psychology in psychology, I'm I'm ordained pastor also, but I know the brain and know many things how to get helping yourself. And this is one thing that happened with my grandmother as she is talking now. She's saying I was not proud of it, but it was, she said it was like abuse on her when she was weak, that my mother told me to go up to my grandmother. So she maybe did that on my mother, but my mother should have stopped it. She should not she should have not told me to go up to my grandmother and experience the same thing that she had experienced. And sorry, it's so much coming to me from my grandmother. Because she started to make me fill in a puzzle pieces that was missing, and like I say, it's to remember the past can be a healing for you, because you don't see it when you're a baby, but as an adult you can understand what was going on and accept that have happened to you when you were a child. But as an adult, that you can lay behind you and deal with it, to understand it in an adult way, and that's be different from it. So she is talking sexual things now to me, and that is like we in my mother's DNA is it very much a man in those DNA, and that's when my mother did a family tree of church books, and I saw they were so very old when they got their first child, and I understand that they had very much male hormones, testosterone, the male hormones, so they were equal with some kind of man, but it was not in their mindset to be lesbian, because there was no thinking like that. So they have to accept that they were a double gender in that way, in their hormones. And I check up also because I didn't go pregnant. I've been not pregnant after I got my daughter. And I was 32 and I wanted a sister or a brother to my daughter very fast. And so the doctor checked out my hormones, and I had more than normal male hormones in me. And I understand now when my grandmother is here and affect my thinking that it have been in many generations that they have been like men, those female. And in what she is saying to me is that they had sexual fantasy, and they could do it with the same sort of man, that they have fantasy and they did it. And there were no help for the children that be abused. So I know that my mother talked about that, and I have talked about that in one episode, that my mother was abused of her father, but she maybe was abused of her mother also, in that way, like my mother did to us. She never stopped it, that my father was pedophile, and she never stopped it. So in that way she agreed to it. And I think that for many years I have thinking that she experienced the same things, that she was into to be abused. When she was a child, she wanted to see it in me, to be abused. So she never stopped it. And I remember that I had hard to do a number 2, as it in America it says that. I have stopped in my butt. I couldn't take out the waste. So my mother took me to a doctor, and I remember that I was standing on my force, and he took finger into my butt and took out that was inside. And today, as an adult, I'm not sure that maybe it was not a doctor. Maybe she had something with another man to do, and had me standing there on my floor. I remember I was so very embarrassed. So I know where I was, in what city I was. So I was not so old. I was about 8 years old, and have to be forced like that. And sometimes my mother put in the past they have very much gloves. Women, that was fashion to have this with gloves on. And she had gloves that was of leather, and there was only this soap pieces. There was no liquids like we have today. It was this soap. And when it started to be very small, she put it together in a glass, in a jar. And then when she should clean her leather gloves, she had that to wash the gloves with, and it make them be soft and not hard if you use other things, but those soaps was good to have for the gloves. And when I had hard with my butt, because I was so much abused, so that make me also have hard to take out the food from my body. And when I had this problem, she come with those soap pieces and place it inside my ass, my back there, and I had already bleeding because it was hard, so that soap, it make me get very, very much pain of the soap into the wounds that was there. So this it doesn't need to be my grandmother. My grandmother maybe did that, or she was like my mother, that she never say anything when it was abuse in the home, and maybe they were together for to do this kind of things. So I maybe make you remember this abuse that you have tried to forget, to not remember. And I tell you that it's good for you to remember these things, because as an adult person you can think around it, what happened around it, and maybe it happened things for a long time, and it go worse in this, what it is in your life, what have been abusive. And then as an adult you can understand it better, and then you can dig it down in to forget it, and also forgive these things that happened to you, but only dig it down and try to forget it. That doesn't work in most cases. You have to open up and then look at it. Hold it in your hand and look on it and look around. What come to be to be abuse? What was going on before the abuse started? What did the people around in this senior... I can't talk today. Is it my grandmother that affect me because she have hard to talk? So you have to open it up as an adult person and see what's because an abuse doesn't start with an abuse. It have already been like prepared and working on around this abuse before it happened. I have seen pedophiles, how they are working. They don't go immediately to a child and rape it. Most of the cases, they try to be their friends. We that look at, we are thinking, oh, what a childish man or a woman with a children that she don't know, but she's playing with them. And this have maybe been the first step to abuse a child. It's things that hints that is there, that if you have been adult, you could have seen it coming. But a child can't do that. A child can't place together things that happen to each other. That is, when you are adult, you can do that. And in that way you can look at it and understand it. And in your understanding, you can be healed of it. So this is something that my grandmother is here, but she touched me and I see her now. But I don't see her in her wheelchair. She's standing. She's standing up. She is not disabled anymore. And she wanted to talk about this with child abuse because she was involved in these things. And she knew it. And when she got the stroke, it was like taken out from her brain to abuse children, to do bad things. But she was weak when she had got a stroke and couldn't walk and couldn't move her right arm, and only the left was there to move. And of course it affected her brain also. So she was not anymore like that because she never wanted, didn't tell us that she wanted me to come up to her so she could take her hand into my pants. It was my mother's that told me to go there and standing. And my mother was like that. I have talked about my childhood, that my mother was talking. When she talked about me, she talked in the third person. So I couldn't know it was me she talked about, because she talked about that girl far away from us. That girl say and did these things. She didn't say, you did that. So it was in many things she did that. And she wanted to experience her own abuse in my abuse. So this is also a healing for you that listen, that you can have placed as a third person, So when your mother or father is, or someone else is talking, and you feel like you remember some kind of what they are saying, but then you take it away because they are talking in a third person about someone else with another name. But in fact, in reality, they are talking about you. So my grandmother is talking about this. This is keyword, she say, that you must read between the lines, and if you feel like she or he is talking about something I remember, but not remember very well, but I remember some part of what they are saying, and then you need to pay attention that they maybe are talking about you and your life. They are talking about a special person that is in the room, and not someone far away out in the space, someone in a book or something like that. They are talking about you, but in another term, another way. So that's a way my grandmother is saying, that's a way to be healed, to understand this, that not everything is given to you clearly. There is sometimes you need to play with it together with that person to get more facts, more to hear what really was going on in that time. And you have, and she's saying this, that don't forget to ask those that have been with you what have happened, and it's very important to pick up what happened when I was a child before it's too late. They don't need to be old people that die away. It can be people that suddenly is not in your life, and you need to have a communication with them, what they remember about your childhood together, like that, or your teenager together, to pick up all this, maybe things that you have forgotten that can be very important for you to understand what have going on in your life when you have been abused. What did happen before it happened? And other people have eyes and ears to hear also, so that they can tell you. I see it now, and you are still young man, that you start to standing up because that pick on you, that was something you understood here that you have not done, that you need to do, that you need to talk to those people that have been with you, having some relaxing time together in when you are in a park sitting and eating, drinking beer or wine or whatever you do to relax, and in the evenings like that, and ask this kind of questions for you to understand your childhood and where you are coming from. So I don't know if you are going to stay with me, grandmother. If you are one of those that is here now from heaven, and as you are not like before, so you are welcome to be here to look after me and help me to understand everything, and to help people that listen at this podcast to understand this about abuse. I didn't know that it should be that topic. I wanted only to talk about that my grandmother was coming down here and stood at my bed in the night, and she was saying this about my daughter, to ask her about the blood pressure, because that can cause problem. If you have low blood pressure and doing this, that is in fashion today, to eat, and it can affect your body in a wrong way, like you have already low pressure, blood pressure, and then you get even lower, and you can die of it. Mostly people know about high blood pressure, but very few understand this with low blood pressure. It can be killing rapidly. My grandma say rapidly. And but the high blood pressure, if it's not going very high, so you get stroke. But if you have a high blood pressure that is only a little high, then you can go for a long time, for many years. But a low blood pressure, they kick you out immediately, and you maybe is in a place where you can't tell a person that other people can see you, that you lay in there. So it can be maybe more dangerous. And so my grandmother come and talk about my daughter, that this vegan vegan diet lower her blood pressure. So thank you for listening. I recording when there is something to talk about, not from me, but if they from heaven and those spirits that is in my home, if they want to talk, then I recording, because this podcast is my ancestors' podcast. It's not mine. They told me to do this podcast, and I do it. And I give me, if they want to give me to give messages, warnings, advices to people, I do it, but I very seldom do something that have with me to do that I want to recording. I recording what the spirit want me to recording. So thank you for be my friend and follower, and maybe sometimes help me to repost my podcast episodes. I I know every one of you that have repost my podcast episodes. Don't think that it's hidden. It's not hidden. I see it in the statistic of the podcast, who you are. And I go into your profiles and check you out what you repost. And most of you are very young. But I don't do that because I do the podcast what the spirit want me to talk, and not what is going on today inside the fashion and this what people want me to recording. It's not about the earth in real. It's about the spirit want to talk to you. That is what the podcast is about. So thank you. God bless you.